Hello and welcome to the Retro Rejects. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing if Bad Santa is the Christmas version of something. So yeah, this week it's build up to Christmas, and of course we decided that kind of like if we're going to be looking at Christmas movies, Bad Santa 1 and 2 is going to have to be up there to watch, I suppose. Kind of like, it's not going to be, although I suppose it could have been stuff like Santa Claus the movie.
Yes, or It's a Wonderful Life or something like that.
No, or
Die Hard.
well, yeah, that Die Hard is just kind of done to death. I think fucking Brooklyn 911. Was it 911? It was Brooklyn 99. 99, yeah. Yeah, whatever. But that kind of ruined it for me because it was like just kind of hipsterish thing.
Well, I was cool before it was hipster.
Yeah.
It's been my favourite film since, one of my favourite films since it came out in 88.
Yeah, but they kind of, the way where it's like where people are kind of trying to show as if they're kind of like knowledgeable about movies or they're cool in some way by saying like, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I think it's just people our age remember it fondly, that's all.
Oh yeah, but it's not people our age, it's a lot of times it's younger people.
Oh, so younger people are bad, are they?
Yeah, they are, yeah. Of course they are. Like, you look at any, hey, did you not learn anything from looking at the Death Wish movies?
No.
It was that young people and Jeff Goldblum are a danger and a threat. If you can hear any noise, it's our dog jumping around at the moment. He's fucking destroying a bone.
Yeah, which is wonderful. Always wonderful.
That we got him for Christmas. That's all that he got for Christmas.
Just about.
Although I think we look at some of the money that we were after, and sometimes the fucking dog gets more money spent on him than we spend on ourselves.
He gets better treats and more clothes. Yes, indeed. But anyway,
but he did destroy the ring. In fairness,
his name is Frodo. He is Frodo, yes, and he did literally destroy a ring.
Although I suppose the thing is, it is fucking Gollum might have done it.
Yeah, well, Frodo's the one who carried the ring.
It's not really who done it though, is it? Yeah, who done it? No, because like I'd imagine at the end of Frodo probably walked away and went, I threw it in. I killed that Gollum kind of guy.
Exactly, yeah.
Did Sam come in at the end? I can't remember.
Yeah, Sam saw the struggle.
Oh, did he? Yeah. That's alright.
I think
then he could have lied through his teeth about it and just stuck the ring in his pocket.
I know, I threw it into
he didn't die or anything like that. No.
Our little Frodo Doggins wouldn't be able for such a subterfuge. Although he does like hiding things. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that.
Yes, Bad Santa. Like I was saying to you before, I have very fond memories of this. I used to work with an individual who was a big fan of Bad Santa, and I used to spend quite a lot of time with him when I was working with him, and he would quote Bad Santa non-stop, I'd say from fucking October onwards.
Yeah, so it was probably one of your disinhibited clients.
Yes, and it was, if it go around, he must have looked at it millions of times, so I ended up looking at it
also millions of times.
Yeah. And it's a good movie. It's like it holds up. It's one of those few movies I think I've seen so many times, don't get tired of it.
Yeah, and it's not, I suppose, a sugary, saccharine, sweet sort of like, isn't Christmas wonderful, guys? There is a bit of that, but it's mostly doused in like alcohol and nicotine and self-loathing.
Apparently the first draft of it was so vile and crass that this is according to Wikipedia, one of the studios was like, my god, that's fucking not good. It's like absolutely horrendous. And that was why Harvey Weinstein wanted to make it.
Because it was absolutely horrendous.
Apparently, so that's what it's, where you kind of go, alright. But there was like people that were lined up for it other than Billy Bob Thornton. One of them that kind of stuck out to me was Jack Nicholson.
That would have been excellent as well, actually.
Oh no, sorry, Jack Nicklaus the golfer.
That would have been even more satisfying.
But it's, and I think Bill Murray and a few other people like that.
All of these, those are names that you could easily see doing that particular role, all right.
And what's his face? Oh God, Tony Soprano.
Oh, Gandolfini.
Yeah, apparently he was lined up for it because he was after doing some work with the Coen Brothers beforehand. I can't remember what Coen Brothers movie he was in. But he would have been an interesting choice. He was very underrated. Like, I mean, it's great that he got something as good as The Sopranos, because I saw him in a few bits and pieces before that, before he became big, and he was a fucking fantastic actor. Like, he really, really is. He just fitted into Tony Soprano so well. I think that's all he could ever be known for.
Probably, yeah.
Afterwards.
That's it, indeed, yeah. But Billy Bob Thornton was
Billy Bob Thornton was an excellent choice.
And yeah, again, it was someone that I wasn't too sure about for the role, and then I was just like, well, actually, yes, he's perfect for it.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing, like, in it. And I think that's because Billy Bob Thornton would have been seen as a very serious actor up until that point. Like, I think, did he win an Oscar for Switchblade or something? I've never even seen that film, but I remember it was just... there was like people talking about it the whole time. I think Halle Berry might have been in it as well, and that was the film that kind of broke her. I think it broke the two of them.
Alright.
I think it was called Switchblade. I just seem to remember that year for some reason when that came out, that it was like, that's all you heard about the two of them, and I never saw them in anything. Until Catwoman and Bad Santa.
Yes, they're fucking outstanding contributions to society, I suppose. Yes. They're high point, they're pinnacle of acting.
But Bad Santa, yeah, it's like the Coen brothers had their hands in it. Terry's was his wig off, as well as a director who did Ghost World and one of my favourite movies, which we'll cover at some stage, Art School Confidential. He did those as well. But for people who aren't familiar with it, because it's Christmas and maybe people just want to listen to some Christmas bullshit and they don't know, they're like, oh, Bad Santa. Maybe it's they're retarded and they don't know how to spell Santa Claus in the movie. I don't know. But it's basically Billy Bob Thornton's character, Willie, is just a massive piece of shit. Him and his sidekick, Marcus, who's going to pose as his elf while he plays Santa in the department store, going to just learn the layout of the department store so they can rob it at the end of the time.
Yeah, get locked in overnight, basically, and empty out the safe just after the Christmas sales.
But Willie, Billy Bob Thornton's character, he ends up... It's a little bit like It's a Wonderful Life, I think, which I've never seen either. But insofar as that there's that redemption kind of thing, but it's not really, it's just slight redemption. It's one of these things where it's probably more realistic, where people don't like fucking change dramatically and become like Willie's a piece of shit. He's always going to be an alcoholic piece of shit, but he's just slightly better at the end of it than he is at the start of it. And even at that, he's just...
He tries to do one nice thing, I suppose.
And it's mainly because, like, Thurman Merman, the kid that he ends up...
Who's actually the star of the film.
Yeah, really, he is. That young fella was fucking brilliant in it. And, like, he's in the sequel as well. I don't think he was in many films in between. So it was, like, all the strangers seeing him come back as an adult. Yeah,
and still be that same odd child at heart kind of a thing. But yeah, like, I mean, the premise, as you said, it's they're setting up as Santa and his elf trying to case out department stores and then rob it. But he inadvertently, Thurman Merman comes to see him as one of the children coming to see Santa and like just latches onto him as like,
I forgot how it starts. Yeah, and he's like, oh, my daddy's off fucking climbing Mount or something like that, where he's in jail for fraud.
That's it. So Bad Santa kind of is looking for a place to crash, and this kid seems to be in a house on his own with a grandmother that's suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, so doesn't know what's going on. So he's like, oh, hey kid, how'd you like to have Santa come and stay in your spare room? And of course the kid is like, cool, would you like a sandwich?
Originally he's going around to rob the place, and then he sees that they're just all fucking mental, and then
that's, I suppose, the first.
So he does rob the place, and then he's going off, and there's someone after him for money, so he goes hiding out there thing. Isn't it? Yeah,
but that's his first sort of slightly redemptive thing, I suppose, that he ends up starting to like feel sorry for the grandmother and tolerate the child a little bit. Now he only tolerates the child to a certain extent, like he's still absolutely horrible to him the whole way through until nearly the end.
Yeah, and even at that point he's still horrible to him. But Thurman Merman is just, even the name is fantastic. But he is just a brilliant character in general. Like the thing that used to crack us up a lot of the time with the chap that I was working with, he used to always go on about Jesus and Mary and the talking walnut. That it was just
so bizarre.
Yeah, or what was the other? It was when he cuts his hand when he was trying to carve him a wooden pickle.
Yeah,
it's just fucking, so it's just bizarre stuff. But you kind of go, yeah, all right. You kind of go, well, kids are
odd, as you know, they are. Oh, look, I got you a present, and it's like, I don't know, a snot stained piece of paper or something like that. Look, it's a drawing of you, and you're just like, Thanks.
Yeah, and as well,
I think.
the film at the time, I remember why it was kind of being pushed a lot was because it was John Ritter's last movie before he died, and like obviously he was dead a long time before it came out. And I presume people that are listening might be aware who John Ritter was, but he was in Three's Company and a shitload of stuff. He was in the TV version of It. He was the writer. He was I can't remember the name of the kid. He was like the fat kid.
Oh, yeah.
The Ben, was it? And then when he
George, I don't know.
yeah, he was Ben George, Frank. But then when he grew up, he was like was he right? I can't remember, but he was in that.
One, like, yeah.
So people might, but he was in a load of things. He was really. I think he might have been in some sitcom before. Maybe it was like fucking.
Maybe you should have looked this up instead of trying to recall.
How to date
using your absolutely patchy memory.
Date your daughter, or rules for dating your daughter, or something like that.
10
I don't
simple
know.
rules for dating your
It was something like that. That was like actually doing well, and then like he died of a heart attack. There's a while with it, so but poor John Ritter. He always seemed like a really, really nice guy.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes. So is that why you watched the film initially?
No, that's how I became aware of it.
All right.
I think that was the thing that people, was nearly used, not as a marketing thing. They weren't that crass, like going around saying, "Oh, should see like John," but you know the way fucking.
I know, reports, sort of always mention it or whatever.
Are with it. Like they weren't, and then I think as well, people, it was the shock value of Billy Bob Thornton playing. I'd say that got an awful lot of people watching it.
Yeah.
Because he was so highly respected. He still is a highly respected actor. That you would have had a lot of people that probably would never looked at something like Bad Santa go and check it out because Billy Bob Thornton was in it.
Was the star, exactly, yeah.
Telling women they ain't going to shit right for a week.
After he's done with them, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing as well. There's so many, like... I'm quite difficult to shock, I suppose, so are you. And there's a couple of lines and a couple of scenes in this where you're going, oh my God, I can't believe they just said that. I can't believe that just happened. Jesus Christ.
Especially in a kids' movie.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
Because, no matter what you say about it, at its essence, it's going to be kids. It's going to be one of those movies that, like fucking Gremlins or Critters or one of those things that when you're young, people are saying to you, oh, you're not, it's like an 18s or 15s, you shouldn't really be watching it, but you do watch it because it has that vibe about it, so a Santa movie kids are going to want to see it.
Definitely should be a film that kids don't watch though, because why is this drunk dressing up as Santa? It'll just shatter all the illusion, you need to wait till you're a teenager at least and you're sort of out of the hole,
Yeah, I would imagine though coming up towards being fucking hell, there's one of our kids' friends, she's like 8.
Our friends' kids,
kids' friends, yes. She's like fucking going on, she was when Candyman, the new one, came out, she was after seeing it. And they were like, what? And she was like, oh yeah. But kids who, we all did it.
Of course.
So something that's called Bad Santa.
Yeah.
If it was a time for, I imagine when it came out, like Blockbuster and all those were sitting around.
Yeah, had it.
You would have fucking fathers around the world would be going in and kids going, can I please get, and they'd be like, fuck it, how bad can it be, they'd probably think that it was going to be something like Jingle All the Way.
Yeah. And then suddenly Christmas is ruined and childhood is over.
Teachers all around the world here and kind of kids going, you ain't going to shit right for a week. Like, what?
Yikes. Oh my God.
Bernie Mac as well. Forgot to mention Bernie Mac in it.
Yeah.
Bernie Mac, fucking fantastic. He was another person who's no longer with us now. Fucking extremely talented. Never really bothered with his TV show, the Bernie Mac show.
I did watch a bit of it already.
Yeah, but I didn't realise that. I always thought that there was just 2 series of it. I think there was 4 or 5 series. It was a very popular TV show. But Bernie Mac was someone I suppose, conventional fame came to him later in life.
Yeah.
He was well-known stand-up comedian, but he never had his TV show or anything like that. And then Spike Lee did the Kings of Comedy. And he was on that with other people. I can't tell. Why can't I think of fucking he does Family Fortunes or Family Feuds. Steve Harvey.
Yes.
So isn't it? D.L. Hughley and Cedric the Entertainer.
Look at you remembering things. Well done.
But Bernie Mac was The
was the
first time I saw
standout,
him,
yeah,
I
he
was
was
like, who the
amazing.
fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't tell if he was really like that. You were kind of like, this has to be an act.
Yeah, he's doing a bit. He's playing a character.
And the voice even, like,
Yeah.
because actually you couldn't understand him at points where he was like, you son of a bitch. But it's like, we've talked about this before. It's, unless you're fucking Irish, I think, and unless you probably know African people as well, you don't realise that there's a lot in common culturally, like an awful lot in common. And the way that he was taught, he always reminded me of like a character that you get in rural Ireland,
Yeah,
in a
some
pub.
rambly
Even the
old
fucking
lunatic, yeah.
the speech pattern with that "son of a bitch."
Yeah, just trailing off. Yeah, but it's exactly like some old fella just propping up the bar and having these little rambles and giving out about everyone and the way things are today, on like that in my time kind of thing, But as I said,
Giving out about it was his sister's kids he was looking after, wasn't
That's
it? Which
right,
was based in real life. Like that was the deal. He talked about shit that was going on with his family, which kind of set him apart. Boy, he was just always like, those fucking kids I hate. Where other people would be like, oh my god, they're little angels,
my
and he'd be like,
little
those pieces of
darlings.
shit, they're trying to fucking kill me.
but yeah, and in Bad Santa, Bernie Mac is basically Bernie Mac as the security guard. It's exactly his kind of right up his alleyway.
He
his
was,
shtick.
but you can see there's points where you can see him either ready to break, or you just know
Just
it took
about
a
to
couple
break,
of
yeah.
takes. Like that whole where he's talking to John Ritter, like he's Bernie Mac is a security guard, and John Ritter wants him, is that the department head, and he's saying to him, "Look, will you look into these guys? There's something
They fishy or
fucking
something
wrong
wrong
about him." Yeah. So Bernie Mac looks in and he figures out that they're robbing things, but when he's talking, he wants to throw John Ritter off the case because he wants to be part of the heist, and he's like, saying to John Ritter, "Oh, man's a sexual animal. Can't fault him for that."
Nothing wrong with the love of a hefty woman.
Yeah, doesn't have a parking ticket. But then when he's trying to blackmail the others, and he's like, for about 2 minutes, he's like half, where he's like, I want 50% of the takings, and they're like 10, and he's like half. And you just know from when you see makings of movies, that probably went on for fucking an hour.
Yeah.
That they were doing it, and he was. It just really brought his character out, I think, other than this, And when he catches the kid Robin
Yeah.
as well, and he just robs his fucking headphones.
Yeah, it's like, go off and tell someone about it, why don't you? The poor kid goes off then crying after being robbed by a security guard.
Well, that's the thing with, I think these characters, they're over the top to a certain degree, but they're fucking realistic
They are, yeah.
as well. Like,
You would know people in our
Yeah.
life that would do that, like, just to get a laugh or just to get a raise or just to be a dick to a kid.
yeah, and like, I mean, I definitely would have known people, like, when I was younger that were like Willie. And they probably are fucking like him now, like, other than the fucking safe cracking
Yes,
stuff.
exactly, or
But,
playing Santa.
Yeah, that were like just alcoholics. Well, I don't know about that. I knew one or two people that played Santa.
Yeah, and as the
And
least
they
likely
were
person.
alcoholics.
Yeah, least likely person to actually play the good old Saint Nick. Kind of
Yeah, there was, I don't know, I won't say their name, but someone who we used to hang around with years ago. They were, if anyone remembers, Bananas in Pajamas.
Oh yeah.
They got this gig in a library where they were meant to dress up as, like, obviously with someone else, Bananas in Pajamas, and he came out of it from really fucked up. He was like really depressed for like a good while after, because he said, oh, that was these kids on their own coming up saying they had no friends, and they were like, oh, you're my best friend, B1, kind of like, and telling them kind of like all stuff about like, no, their fucking parents
Horrible
hating them,
home life, yeah.
and he was just like,
Poor children.
he was just
horrible
horrified,
lives.
and he thought like, oh, this will be like a handy
Couple
couple of quid,
Exactly, just sit in a library and tell stories to kids, and then kids tell them.
I didn't remember that full story until I started talking about it, because I had, oh yeah, that was really funny, and then I was like, no, that wasn't funny at all.
No, it's tragic and very depressing. Exactly, yeah. I know, and that, I suppose, that is in a way like Thurman Merman's story as well. He's this kid who's just full of wonder, and he's like mad about Santa Claus, and he just has this horrible home life. He's getting terribly bullied out in public and in school because he is like, he's he's a little bit unusual, shall we say. But he just endlessly happy and endlessly.
Yeah, he's a lovely kid, like.
Yeah, and like so generous and kind, and it's like, can I make you a sandwich? And like, oh, you're my best friend, Santa. You know, that's, you got Billy Bob Thornton there going like, fuck off, kid.
Yeah.
And he's just like, okay.
But it's a kid that's basically after being reared by an old woman with dementia.
Yeah, reared by himself essentially, because he's making them the grandmother sandwiches the whole time, like, you know. So he's just basically figuring shit out by himself, and being a 6-year-old kid like that, just is trying to make his way in the world.
Well, I can't remember the name. There was a guy who had there were very few videos on YouTube about Bad Santa. Because I suppose there's not much of a, you know, there's people, oh, no, it's funny, like we're doing. But there's no analysis of it. But there's one video I came across, and I wish I could think of the name of the guy and give him credit. It might be like Take 1, Take 2, some shit like that. But his view on it was that, oh shit, I'm after forgetting now.
Oh,
maybe I have dementia. Maybe I have dementia too.
Maybe, definitely.
But his whole thing about it is like what we were saying about the redemptive arc. It's slow. It doesn't really happen quickly, and that's the whole point of it. Where it's like these people that aren't that can't be redeemed really, and then like when you go to the sequel, like.
Exactly, they're still the same shitbags.
The same things happen, and that's when you look at something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I remember reading an interview with Rob McElhenney years ago, before people were really watching, before it was as big as it was. And they were saying that what they always hated was that in a lot of sitcoms, and I think they were kind of like aiming at the league, what happened was as people went on and became more famous and had more money, they got better haircuts, they got better teeth, they lost weight, better clothes and stuff. And then the shows just got worse because it wasn't realistic. It was like, why were these people, these degenerates?
Yeah, suddenly they're all glossy and happy and shiny and
Whereas like what made It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I think, so popular and what keeps it so relevant today is that they just get worse. They, like, obviously their fucking drug-addled brains and kind of like all the shit that they're doing to each other is just destroying them as people, kind of like as they're going along. And that's good or bad Santa, you know?
Well, yes, good Santa, but bad Santa,
No one can, like, even Thurman Merman, when he gets older, he's
still the same troubled kid, I suppose, really, that still has this whole kind of skewed perception of reality where, like, you know, he just does things and he thinks no one is out to harm him, but yet the whole world is out to harm him. Not maliciously necessarily, but it's just the world is just a horrible, shitty place, you know?
Well, I suppose it's the thing, when you're looking at the ending of the movie as well, where it gets to like Willie's redemption, but Willie's redemption is that he wants to get, he still robs the fucking place, with Marcus, who's fantastic as well. The guy he's
an even worse shitbag. Yeah,
he and his wife or partner, she's like, I suppose, I don't know if it's politically correct to say, but Tiger Mom. That's the only thing I remember, and I only got that from Supernatural when we were looking at Supernatural. But yeah, the two of them are just monsters, and he actually says that at the end of it because they're going to kill him.
Yeah, so they can make off with all the money, heist rather than split
like,
it.
We're just sick of your shit, and he's just, you people are fucking monsters. And he decides to, well, it's a letter he leaves, a suicide note that Thurman Merman finds, and he hands it to the police, and the police come along and they stop the thing, but it makes Willie look as if he was maybe trying to stop him, but he gets shot by the police on the doorstep when he's trying to get in and give Thurman Merman the present
the little stuffed elephant that he'd asked for right back at the start, basically, when he came to Santa first, which I suppose is his redemptive sort of struggle, where he's like, okay, I'm done being for the time being, I'm done being a shitbag doing robberies and all the rest, and I'm actually going to try and make this child's Christmas a special Christmas.
Yeah, well, it was the whole thing. He just got a big payout from being shot by the police. And that was, you could see that there was and he had a girlfriend, and stuff, and she was going to look after Thurman Merman,
while he was in jail,
yeah. So it's slightly redemptive, but it's not. It's just a nice ending.
It is. It turns out like
you didn't have him getting fucking murdered. Like.
No, this is it. Like, I mean, the kid got someone to look after that he was mad about, and the granny was looked after as well. It wasn't the case that he was just using the barmaid he was seeing as well, like, because that was another feature of his character. That he was just like, he was just using women and throwing them aside. He actually had feelings for this girl, and she had feelings for him. And it was just sort of they're all waiting for him whenever he managed to get back out of jail. So there was this thing. It ended on a hopeful note, I think.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I think that brings the Christmas hope and joy into it, and as well the whole thing. It's set in Phoenix, Arizona, so it's not the usual Christmas.
Yeah,
thing
it's
where
snowy escapes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As well, it's kind of barren nearly, and as well even the malls and things. You know, it's very
kind of sterile, horrible. Corporate kind of Christmas thing, I suppose, really.
And that's it's like going back to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Always Sunny in Philadelphia Christmas special as well. Where Charlie fucking like bites into Santa's fucking ear.
Yeah.
Did you fuck my mom, Santa? Did you? My mom?
Did you? Yes, horrifying indeed. But no, I think these sometimes are the better Christmas movies or Christmas episodes because it subverts the whole like everything is lovely and we'll set everything aside for like one season or one episode or one film or whatever and just do something lovely and unrealistic and overly saccharine sweet. It's nice to have something that's a bit realistic where like everyone is a shitbag to varying levels and varying degrees and people are just trying to get on with things, you know?
Well, that's why you look at like say something like Amazon Prime and I don't know, Netflix doesn't seem to be doing it for so much so this year, but there's just like hundreds of Christmas movies suddenly fucking appear.
It's all the Hallmark type, the standard.
And like we've seen, well, we haven't looked at any of them, but we've seen like with Drew Gooden, he does like terrible Christmas movie episodes every now and again. And some of them are just fucking bizarre, you know, but they're terrible.
They are terrible. And of course there's the whole trope of like, there's a, you know, sort of the small town girl moves off to the big city and she kind of gets her whole career together and she's a hotshot lawyer, or the alternative, there's a guy moves off and he's a hotshot lawyer, but they go back home to their hometown for Christmas and suddenly realise that what they want is to be a stay-at-home mom, and they find some country boy that they knew back in high school, and it's like this weird predictable sort of like it's meant to be a happy ending, but it's like, but they just gave up their career and just moved back home to do nothing kind of thing, you know? As it's like they've
become homeless.
They've totally flipped everything on their head, like what they've been striving for all these years. And I think it's meant to be like, oh, well, you know, you can strive for material things, but like love and relationships and family conquer all. But it kind of doesn't come off that way in those kind of films. It is just like, I've just given up on my nice apartment.
It is just, all those movies, they just reek of someone saying, here's $50, go off and make whatever fucking shit you want, just have it, you know, and they're like,
hit these points, exactly.
Alright, dig that script out of the bin there.
Yeah, just rehash it, exactly. Which is why I think Bad Santa is so refreshing, because it's definitely not your usual typical Santa Christmassy type film at all.
But it holds up so well. Like, Terry Zigoff hasn't done a load of things in his career, which is unfortunate, because he's fucking great, like, but it's like he didn't, I suppose, as good as Bad Santa 1 is, Bad Santa 2 got fucking panned. Any reviews I've seen of people saying it's a travesty, it's fucking disgusting, it ruins like the legacy of Bad Santa 1, it's nowhere near as good. Now, I quite like Bad Santa 2.
Yeah. It was, and it actually kind of gave even more depth to Willie, I suppose, because his mother enters the scene, I suppose, in the fray, and you suddenly kind of go, oh, well, this guy had no chance from the very start. Like, if this is his mother, do you know, it's like, of course you're going to turn out. He
talks about when he was younger, in the first one, and you just know that he's like, he's been abused all his life, and there was possibly some sexual kind of thing there, kind of like if you want to look into the way that he is about sex, that's kind of like, you know, his whole identity is wrapped up in that, because he gets really angry at the start with John Ritter when John Ritter says something that he misconstrues as kind of like him saying something about his junk.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, my junk works fine, you know. And that's like the only time you see him getting really angry about stuff. He's challenged on that, but that's all that he's a fucking pervert, like out and out, but he's not like, he's not a rapey pervert.
That's the thing, it's always consensual, like, as well, you know. It's just he enjoys the grosser things in life, I suppose. But it is like in the second one, you know, as I was saying, sort of mom pops up and it's Kathy Bates, and it's just, you know, you suddenly kind of go, right, okay, I see why this guy ended up growing up the way he did. His mom is just this horrible piece of shit that basically does the same thing. She organised heist as well. She's carrying around going.
That's why he used to be the elf kind of for horror kind of. So it kind of nearly leans into. Well, it wasn't, because in the first one you could think it was Marcus was the one behind it all, and then with that you kind of go, oh well, he seems to have been doing this all his life.
Yeah, he was brought up to do this role basically, kind of thing, because his mom was a safe cracker as well before him and showed him how to crack safes basically. So you get that whole thing of like, well, sort of he was always headed down this path and there was nowhere you can kind of almost not forgive, but like at least you understand why he is the way he is, and you can see the struggle of him trying to change.
Her nickname for him is Shitstick.
Yeah, like her affectionate nickname for him. Like,
well, when they meet each other, he punches her, and he's like, "You hit like a bitch, just like your dad."
Yeah, and it is just, it's comedic, but it's horrific at the same time, because it's just like it's just. Yeah, I grew up in an abusive household and this is the way things are and all the rest. It's depressing in a way, because you kind of go, that's actually probably a lot of people's reality.
Yeah, and you kind of hope that there's going to be some...
Yeah, a redemptive arc for the whole family and stuff like that. But mom turns out to be a total
piece of
bitch.
shit. And even one of the things, like Marcus comes back in at this time, she's after getting, when he comes out of prison, she's the one that gets in contact with him to try and get Willie to do
one last great heist.
Where it's this time around, it's kind of like it's a charity, isn't it? That they have like loads of Santas go out collecting over Christmas.
Exactly.
In New York, I think, is it? Or no, Chicago.
Yeah.
Because there's a line about Chi-Town in it where I was just like, fucking hell. Like, I mean, there's the way things are gone now, things are like very politically correct.
Yeah. There's a lot of the humour that you would not it would not fly at all in a movie that's been getting made nowadays.
Which it should. Like, I'm not going to say what they say.
Don't want to get in trouble.
Don't want to be cancelled.
But it is like, I mean, it's not as if they're saying it as in like, I agree with this point of view. It's like, this character is a fucking shitty character, and this is like some of the beliefs they hold or whatever.
It's the language.
Exactly.
He's not racist, it's just the language that he uses. And like, he calls Marcus a midget and stuff like that in it as well, and he's always like, you motherfucker,
Yeah, but I mean, that's the whole thing. They're both like, they're insulting each other because they have to tolerate and work with each other, but they actually hate each other's guts. So it is just this horrible sort of verbal sparring match the whole time. So like, you're not going to be like, oh, botheration, you're such a a character here, and it's going to be violent. It's going to be full of expletives.
I think one of the worst parts is when like Tormund Mormon turns 21 in it, and he's working as basically in Subway as a sandwich
artist.
And Grandma is dead, and he follows Willie to fucking Chicago. And Willie's kind of like, you can't stay here, and he fucking puts him.
He ends up in a hostel.
In a men's hostel with with all the other Santas that are doing, but like with one Santa jerking off and the other one. But he gets him like with the Octavia Spencer, who was in the first one as like a prostitute who was like, I didn't shit right for a week. But it's
like, there's your present for your 21st kind of a thing. And poor child is just so innocent and sort of.
He runs out.
Yeah, he was like screaming, running away. Yeah. She tried to touch me.
But it's like I was saying, I think it's getting him back was like with Clerks 3 getting oh my god, I can't remember the name, but your man from Clerks 2 back into it as well, who never really acted. It's it's a big thing, and you kind of go, fucking hell. And as well, it's just seeing him, it's because he's physicality.
That's the thing, and he has this fantastic expression on his face where it's just this pure sort of like open wonder and like expectations that things will be nice, and nothing is ever nice. And he just has this like wholesome, hopeful expression.
And then when he goes off singing in the choir, and he's like an amazing singer,
angelic voice, like
and like that's the thing. Willie sees him. Willie goes to make sure that he sees him, because I think it's what seems to be the theme of this one is Tormund Mormon says the whole thing about like, well, you can't choose your family, and it's a good thing about that you get to pick people that you want in your family instead of
you're
people.
my person, I pick you.
It's like Willie getting to the point where he realizes just because his mother is family doesn't mean she's not a piece of shit. And
you pick who your family is as such. Like, and Tormund picked him, and so he picks Tormund as well.
Yeah, and then the other big player in this time around is Christina Hendricks. It's who wouldn't be overly familiar with stuff but she was like in Mad Men the whole way through it, and she'd be like I suppose a very kind of well regarded, kind of like, you know,
an actor,
and for her to be in the
she's like a sex fiend basically. She's like the wife of it's a husband and wife team who run this charity, and they're very like well to do and well respected, you know, great, fantastic, keeping appearances up, and then she's like, treat me like a fucking whore kind of thing, you know, and it's just like, oh my god, this is a bit
and
shocking.
the husband is cheating on her, and I think he robs.
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he robs someone. I think I might have missed it this time around, but I was fairly sure he was like committing fraud. And maybe there's another version of it that we didn't see that wasn't on it, but he gets done at the end of it as well for Robin, and she leaves him. But like at the end of this one, it's like, of course, like the mother turns on Willie, and Willie has his redemptive arc again. You know, so I can see where people with the first one. That they'd be kind of like, well, this is, but it's, I think it's like what happened with Clerks happened with this, where it was like you had a lot of people that were like higher up kind of thing, or kind of movie critics that went, oh, Bad Santa's actually really good. It's like, you know, the Coen brothers are involved, Zwigoff, and you know, all this. It's like even though it's like crass, it's not, and then Bad Santa 2 came out, which is still basically the same movie.
It's the same thing, but I think people just took greater offence to it. Yeah. At what, you know, sort of the content.
If Terry Zwigoff was involved with it and the Coen brothers were involved with it, and I think if it was the same fucking movie, people would have been, oh my god, it's great, you know?
Well, I do think maybe the tide was starting to turn at that stage as regards what kind of language you could use or what kind of humour you could use, and people were like, oh, it's very misogynistic, and you know, it's, oh god, it paints women in a terrible light, and it's this, that, and blah blah blah, and it's kind of like, well, it's meant to be a comedy about like horribly offensive characters, like who are, you know, they're robbing a charity. They're, as I said, they're not going to be like, you know, polite and nice.
Yeah,
or like that.
That's what, like, it's, I don't know, a lot of times the things are going to such a place where it's like everything is, people want things to be so fucking sterile,
sanitized.
Yeah, you can't. It's not. There's no humor in that. There's no fun in that. It's like, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not as if this is punching down or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's that's the mark of, like, you know, sort of bad comedy or whatever. Punching down. It's just like, you know, it's taking wild swings at everybody, really, I suppose. Yeah, you know.
But it's funny. It's genuine. Like, I mean, it is crass, but. It's like what we were saying the other day. We're going to be in the next episode. We're going to be talking about Christmas Vacation. But I was just saying, like, when we were looking at Chevy Chase, kind of like doing slapstick stuff, and we're giggling at it. I can imagine younger people looking at that now, kind of go, "That's not fucking funny."
Exactly, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, we were laughing at it because it nearly feels ironic, and we were saying. Maybe that was what, like, people looking at Charlie Chaplin and shit were. They were like, you know,
so
this is fucking stupid.
You're looking maybe
shit.
at your parents kind of going, why are they laughing at that? That's real childish and puerile or whatever. But
I think that I had a point to make, but I think
it's younger generations viewing the previous generation sort of entertainment through that scope of sort of like being removed and detached from it and all the rest. And they're like, that's stupid, that's old person's rubbish, and like, oh, that shouldn't be funny. You shouldn't be laughing at stuff like that. But it's like, you know, it was of its time and all the rest, you know, so why not?
Well, like, the Scary Movie was fucking great. And Scary Movie 2 was great. They're things I shouldn't be saying on a podcast.
Actually admitting it out loud.
Yeah. But they were, you know,
hilarious. Like... But they were terrible as well at the same point. If you looked at them now and you go into all the lines that are spewing out, a lot of people are like, oh my god, that's so offensive. You can't say that nowadays.
But like when Airplane came out, people were fucking... There was a lot of people who was like, what's this fucking garbage? And it was the same with, like, Naked Gun. Like, Naked Gun was the funniest fucking thing I ever saw when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then find, like, Police Squad, the episodes today, was like, my god,
there's
what is
more
this?
Of this.
But there were people, when you look back on it and you kind of go, what the you know, I could picture younger people probably looking at it kind of go,
being
this
horrified.
Is fucking...
Yeah.
And like, to a certain point, I remember looking at Frankenstein, Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a teenager for the first time, but it still seemed to hold up. And it was, you know, where I don't, like, I mean, I don't know, like, you can't stereotype fucking everyone, you know, or throw everyone.
This is something I'm seeing a lot of lately for some reason is people seem to be shooting all over Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura and all of that kind of stuff because
because of the whole thing with
Finkel is Einhorn, and, you know, the Crying Game and all that kind of stuff. People are like, oh my god, that's absolutely terrible. It's like Yes, but he's not meant to be. It's not meant to be like, a likable character as such.
Yeah.
Like, it's over exaggerated, and like, I mean, he talks through his butt. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
But as well, it was of the fucking time. It's
Yeah.
meant to be immature.
Yeah.
And so, like, you have to, like, fucking everyone has to be able to take shots.
yeah.
And things,
Like, I mean, there's plenty of shots. Like, I mean, we're both Irish. There's plenty of like jokes made at Irish people's expense. Like, there's fucking drunken leprechauns brawling and fighting and beating your wives, kind of thing. It's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, go on, yeah, that's the stereotype. Off you go.
But, like, I mean, it's not, it's, I don't, it was very, like, with something like fucking Ace Ventura Pet, it was very of its time. Like, people, like, the whole trans thing wasn't really common at all. And it was like, not saying that it was all right that they were like, taking the piss out of it because it wasn't common. I don't
think that was why. Like, I mean, it was just a turn of things. Like, I mean, it was just a plot twist. It wasn't seen as like a way to sort of shit all over a certain section of people. I don't think it was meant maliciously or anything like that.
And as well, like the Crying Game was out just briefly before, and like that was fucking. It was a cultural phenomena.
Absolutely.
And the amount of things there was a lot of things were taking jokes at because no one saw it coming. No one really no one saw it coming. And even in like Ace Ventura Pet Detective, I didn't see it coming.
No.
It's a great way of hiding someone.
Exactly, that's it. Like, I mean, well, that's how we're kind of getting, excuse me, a little bit off topic there, but that's the thing. I do think a lot of things you have to look at it in the context of the time it was made.
Yeah.
Things weren't seen as like, oh my God, you can't say that or anything like that. And I'm not saying that like, oh, it's right or it's wrong or anything like that, but I do think you need to be able to like take a joke and laugh at things and not be too afraid of
like
what
that
to say.
movie that you keep looking at with the ghosts. What's it? Triumph of the Will that you keep saying is one of the best movies ever made.
That's my favourite book, mine, Comfy Camp.
Yeah, yes. Just Triumph of the Will is that fucking thing where it was like the Ku Klux Klan.
Triumph of the Will, it was all the Nazi stuff, wasn't it?
Maybe. What was it? Do you know it was one of the first movies where it was like the history of America. And like they basically have the Klan as the good guys in it.
All right.
It was like a black and white. I've never seen it, but I've seen like stuff about it where it's.
I don't know. For some reason, I have it in my head that Triumph of the Will is like Lenny Riefenstahl or something like that.
It might be, yeah. But people were looking at this kind of going, what? Later on when it got remastered, and they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly. Yeah. This is it. But I mean, sure, Jesus, it's coming up to that time of year where they're kind of rolling out all the old kind of reliables. And Smokey and the Bandit was on TV last night. If you look at that, you'd be horrified at all the stereotypes, southern sort of cops and loads of things that you could actually pick.
But you need that stuff. Like we were looking at Tom Segura a while ago, and it was an old stand-up one that he did, well, an old few years ago, but where he's like talking away, he's like, I met this talking to someone, say from Louisiana or something like that, and he was like, I can't believe that these people are amongst us. And what makes it funny is that it's obviously not directed
it's
at people
clearly
with
comedy, exactly.
Yeah, it's just that it's so unusual that someone would fucking
pick on this particular group of people.
And just be so vehement with their hatred towards them. Like, it's not as if Tom Segura is fucking sitting around sending out hate literature.
Writing his own manifesto or anything like that. But it is, I think it's just absurdism. It's like sitting around going, do you know who I really hate? Bus conductors. Fuck bus. It's kind of like, but why? It's so bizarre, But again, he got in a lot of trouble for that as well.
Yeah, he was getting death threats and everything for it. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was probably aimed at I can't think of his name, the other guy that we used to really like, but the mullet.
Oh, I can't think of his name, but
But he's famous comedian as well. That's a very kind of redneck. But anyway, Bad Santa.
Yes.
Or just saying, it is the whole thing with the crass humour and all that. If you like it, I think they're two good movies. I really think that the sequel got shit on too much. Kathy Bates was brilliant in
That's it. I was just about to say, she starts off, she's working at the charity and she looks like this sweet old lady and she's all very, wearing her sort of prim and proper jumpers and all the rest. And then she gets home to her squalid little flat and she strips down and she's like covered in tattoos and just chain smoking and fucking.
But it's so stupid. It did remind me a lot of that fucking the Mel Brooks stuff. With it, like the way when she's just taking everything off slow, and that the Naked Gun.
Yeah, it's all this sort of background gags, exactly.
there's a lot of those bits and pieces thrown in there, but I don't know why people just hate it so much. I can't. There's worse comedies out there. There's far worse comedies out there. There was a couple of points through this where I was really fucking bent over laughing. And even the fucking start where he's driving along in the car and he kind of like, oh, things are kind of like after working out.
They're after turning
and he's a valet who just fucking plows into because he's pissed out of his head, and all the other valets just stripping of his fucking.
He's cruising along a lovely convertible and looking like he's living the life, and it's like, nope, he's just drunk and he's driving somebody else's fancy car and ruining his life yet again.
But they're good movies. They're good Christmas movies.
They are, and they do actually probably embody the Christmas spirit better than your typical saccharine, like, oh, let's all buy presents and like, commercialization and all the rest. It's actually someone is genuinely changing their like deep-seated character traits because they realise that this other human is good and they want to help. Why
is Christmas after turned into this thing where it's about redemptive arcs or a lot of movies? Was it just because of It's a Wonderful Life or something like that?
I don't know, possibly.
Because there's fucking nothing about it in religion. It's like meant to be like the birth of
Jesus.
But like there's well, I suppose it's redemption. So Easter is about redemption.
Yeah. Rising again and all the rest. Yeah, but I suppose the Easter Bunny doesn't really feature in as many films as Santa does.
Johnny Darko.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose. But I suppose maybe it's the whole thing like, are you naughty or nice? And this whole kind of side of, Santa, if you're naughty during the year, then bad things will happen. You get a lump of coal in your stocking. If you're good, you might get what you want. You might get your heart's desire. That's actually something about Bad Santa as well. I don't think, the way some Christmas films, you can only watch them in December because you're just in the humour.
Oh yeah, you can look at
and you couldn't watch them in like August or something like that. Bad Santa is a film that you could actually sit down at any time of the year because it's just a good comedy.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, Christmas.
It's like Die Hard.
Yes, exactly.
Or that other film that you're always laughing at, Schindler's List.
Yes.
I've never seen that.
Exactly.
You seem to find that hilarious.
Yeah, hysterical indeed, yes. There you go.
With Triumph in a Will.
Yes, I know, yeah. You're really steering me down
and
like
Anne
into
Frank.
this. Yes, I love her diaries.
Yeah. No, that was Helen Keller was the miracle worker, wasn't she?
Helen Keller was, yes, deaf, dumb and blind.
She with spoons.
That
There
was
something
plain.
to do with spoons at her.
No, that was, when I was deaf, dumb and blind, I was like, sure plays mean pinball. It's Tommy.
How could she find it? How would she even know what it is if she was deaf, dumb and blind?
I don't know. That was the whole thing, wasn't it? Tracing out the letters in the palm of her hand, and that was how she learned to communicate.
I thought she was just deaf though.
I don't know. I'm not her fucking biographer. I don't know.
And she
Go
wasn't
read up
either.
a Wikipedia page then.
I can't. I'm deaf, dumb and blind too.
And illiterate.
Yes, but yeah, I suppose the natural end. The Bad Santa, like being
talking about Nazis and illiteracy.
Yeah, punching down.
Yes.
But yeah, look at it. If you haven't looked at it in a long time, go back and look at it. And if you've never seen the sequel because people have been shitting over it,
give it a chance.
Go and look at it.
You might hate it, but oh well.
Yeah.
It's only an hour and a half.
And that's why if you found us here through YouTube, we're after getting like a glut of people through YouTube. Just want to say thank you very much for listening.
Oh,
Because I
like
really appreciate it. Yet. No, it's a couple of hundred. I just really want to say thank you very much. It's much appreciated. We're gonna in the new year we're gonna have more content. Oh, I hate that word.
Content.
But we're gonna have more stuff on YouTube, videos and different bits and pieces planned and streaming as well and stuff. So
thank you very
Thank
much.
you for listening.
Absolutely. And hope you have a holly jolly Christmas.
Yeah, next week will be Christmas. We'll be releasing the whole fucking
National
Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So if you want to join in,
get watching.
Yeah. So until then, ho ho ho.